Hello and welcome back to the She Dares Wins podcast. And my guest today is Megan Hine. Megan, thank you for allowing me to join you in your back garden. This is, I guess. Tell me when you have dared and won.
I think making my career work, it's quite cliche, but definitely it's been a long process. And I think, it's claiming those small wins every day. Sometimes it's hard to think of it actually being a win, but yeah, you kind of have to keep reminding yourself of where you've come from and how far you've come and where you're aiming at.
And for anyone who doesn't know your story, you're a survival expert. Take us a little bit into the journey from how you got to where you are.
Yeah, so I'm Megan Hine, wilderness guide, survivalist and TV producer. In a nutshell, make the inaccessible accessible. So I've specialised my career in working in really remote wilderness environments, and it's been quite a journey to get there. I was very fortunate that I actually spent all my childhood holidays up here in Snowdonia with my family. My mum's family are from not too far away from here. And that really sort of like facilitated my love of being out here and being in wild places and pushing myself. And as you can see around us, like the weather today is quite variable. Mm-hmm. And I think it's an amazing training ground for future adventures, because I truly believe that the UK has actually got some of the most extreme environments, really, because the weather changes so quickly. And it's like, if you don't have the basic navigation skills or the basic understanding of how layering systems and clothing things work, it's very easy to get caught out.
So it's interesting.
Yeah. So this is why so many like amazing expeditioners and explorers have like come from the UK.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So this was kind of your stomping ground, and then how did that lead into the world of TV? And
so my dad was a geologist. And my mum grew up around here. We spent a lot of time up close and personal with a lot of the rocks around here. Like just up there, there's like an amazing slab, and if you're going up on there, then you can find like there's fossils like in the rocks and things. So it's like, seeing that and, understanding, like being taught about how like the geology and the glaciers have affected the area here and stuff. So yeah, I spent a lot of my childhood like being dragged around, like looking at rocks and things, and like I guess I absolutely loved it up until the age of about 13, when I suppose puberty hit and like rebellion took over, and I was just like, oh God, this is so boring. And then like a year later, I was back like taking my dad out and things. But I guess I was so lucky that like my parents were always just encouraged us to get outside. I'm the oldest of four, to be outside. And I remember at 11, like going wild camping by myself. And it's like, like it was actually not too far from here. And it's like my dad like made me sit down and write a route card, like a route plan of where I was going to go. And this was pre-mobile phones, like being a thing. And it was, there wouldn't have been any signal at the time anyway. And the buses were few and far between. And so he made me make this route card, and I had to stick to this route plan, where I was going to camp and then where I was going to meet the bus.
At 11, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible. I love your dad.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
So I just got dropped off and like, would go make my way through the hills, and then I'd make my way to the bus and go back. So I think like experiences like that, like it was never an issue. Like I never questioned like my gender, like being, it was never a thing. Like I was just out doing what I loved doing, and exploring and like scrambling and and exploring the mountains.
Oh God. So that was born from like a very young age. And then I listened to your book because I like listening to the audio, and I've got to say that the stories throughout it's like you've lived 1,000 lives, like experience wise, and it is incredible. So your first couple of years, like how did you mold yourself into becoming like a survival expert and finding your place?
Yeah, well, I fell into that. It was quite random, actually. When I left school, I went out to New Zealand and ended up working as an outdoor instructor out there. I did an apprenticeship out there in sort of, I suppose, guiding and things. I came back to UK, and my 18th birthday present was my Summer Mountain Leader Award, which is like for if anybody doesn't know, that's like kind of a basic mountain leadership qualification in the UK that allows you then to take people into British mountains in summer conditions or conditions like this. So I picked up that quite early on, And that's how I funded my way through university. I did a degree in outdoor studies. And I remember it was like, I suppose, quite a pivotal moment of I was camping out and by myself. And I remember just, I don't know why my mind went there, but I remember thinking like, I call myself like an outdoor enthusiast, do a lot of outdoor pursuits, but absolutely everything I do is protecting myself from nature and the nature that I supposedly love and understand. I was like, I actually don't know what any of these plants are. I don't know what any of these trees are. I know nothing about it. Like everything I do, like we're waterproof, the tent is protecting myself from nature. And then like a couple of days later, just randomly, a friend of mine was like, oh, I've got some tickets to this bushcraft talk. Do you want to come? I was like, I've got no idea what that is. But they got a free beer. So I was there. Yeah, so I'm there. I'm going. And I went along and I started listening to this guy and I was like, oh my goodness, like this is what has been missing. All this knowledge. So I went on their website after the talk and saw that they were looking for apprentices. So I applied thinking there's no way I'll get this. And then I got offered the job. And through them, I then started assisting on overseas expeditions to go and spend time with Indigenous cultures around the world. So yeah, spent 3 years doing an apprenticeship with them. And then in the winters when the off season, teaching off-road driving.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like stuff of dreams, isn't it? When you think of those jobs and you think, like, how are they achievable? And you manage to get there. A key theme, actually, that I pick up from speaking to a lot of women that have got amazing careers is curiosity.
Yep.
How much do you think that's played part in your career?
A huge part, yeah. I'm that really annoying person, like when you're on like a course who's just like wants to know everything. I'm like, yeah, they want to question everything. You're like, shut up. I'm like sitting there like, no, don't ask it. And as it comes out. But no, I'm just absolutely fascinated in like in the world around us, how it works, how we interact with it, and how, particularly in how our minds work. Really interested in like the psychology of survival. And sort of like the philosophy of like, you know, why we resonate with being outside and like why it's so beneficial for like mental health and like, you know, the sort of under researched therapeutic applications of, you know, of just being outside in nature.
Was there any point where you kind of questioned like your ability moving into a landscape where I guess is quite male dominated and high pressured, like you've got people's lives at risk? Was it always smooth sailing?
Yeah, well, I think early on, no. I think, you know, I had these amazing sort of experiences when I was younger that I never questioned like my gender or my place. Like in, you know, I did a lot of mountain biking growing up, a lot of climbing and things, you know, and I was always performing at the same level as the guys that I was going out with. So it was like never a thing. And then I started working in the bushcraft industry and, you know, didn't seem to be any other women or not very many other women that I came across. And it was like I could see like the way that the clients would then relate to me versus like, you know, the sort of my male counterparts. And I was like, that was quite eye-opening for me, really. Yeah, to kind of be suddenly in that situation where, you know, their automatic response is to go and ask the guy and just ignore me. Right. And at that point, I think it was like the ego kind of got involved and it was just like, oh, this is really shit. So I'm going to like, but it made me work a lot harder to, you know, to get the recognition, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite common, I think. Yeah, I can definitely say that I've experienced that as well in my world. Yeah, of having to get to that point where you almost work twice as hard to get to, you know, be respected by other parts. When I was when I was listening to your book, so many encounters that you describe in it. I think you're in Namibia with 2 lions were circling you. Like I was listening and I was like, this is like a Hollywood movie. You have, you know, been bitten by snakes, like how well, actually one question that I wanted to ask you is, you talk about fear and how important it is to, you know, address fear and work with fear. What's your biggest fear? Other than helicopters. I know helicopters is one.
I've kind of overcome that. I've done a lot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was like, for some reason, like I was absolutely terrified with helicopters. I don't know where it came from. I was like, I do a lot of work and I used to do a lot more work flying in helicopters. So we were using them as like moving crew around but also as rigging platforms, so doing stunts out of helicopters. So I was spending a lot of time in them. And I don't know why, but I just suddenly started having this recurring dream of being in a helicopter crash. And it terrified me. And it's like any turbulence was just like, I was like, oh my gosh, and I can't focus. And like, I'm looking after the people that are in the back with me. And it's like, if I'm like that terrified, am I really able to do my job? So it's something I'd wanted to do for a long time was learn to paramotor. So I went and did that sooner than I might have done otherwise, just so that I could understand like air currents, and that has really kind of helped, because I now know I can read the terrain as we're flying along. I know, okay, we're going to get hit by turbulence here, and
right. So it's that knowledge,
and understanding that, kind of getting curious with it.
Just on that, I'm going to throw a curveball question here, because you talk about there's a female survivor that survived a plane crash, and how it was important those first couple of hours with her decisions on her surviving. And I was like, I'll ask you, if you're going up there, you said when you travel, you have this fun game where you think about things that can help you for the plane. And I was thinking, oh my God, I'm petrified of flying, even though I fly quite a bit. But I was like, what do you take anything on a flight that in case it comes down?
Well, actually, I do.
See,
it became a bit of a game actually with my ex of like, what could we get onto the aircraft? And it's amazing that you can get these tiny little like lighters that can go in. I probably shouldn't be saying this. But you can get these tiny little lighters, and you can get like pens that are like that are double up as like, I don't know, vampire steaks or what have you. But there's a whole like kind of loads of products out there and stuff that you can engineer yourself as well, that you could take on a plane if, for worst case scenario, if you ended up in a plane crash. Obviously, if you get caught taking stuff on, then you might get in trouble.
Yeah. No, it opened my eyes to the like when you said that you could use your phone screen, and it's another world. But anyone that we talk about, next generation of kind of women coming through that will see you and want to kind of go into your area of work. You obviously had this as your backdrop and a passion that kind of came through. What would you say to anyone that wants to get outdoors and enjoy and learn and take a similar route to you? What would be some good steps?
Well, to start with, go out and build up your own experience. It's all very well when the sky is blue and the sun's out, but when it's cold and wet and miserable, which it tends to be in the UK a lot, it's a whole different ball game, particularly when you've got not just looking after yourself, but you're looking after the people as well. So go out and get lots of experience. If you're really if you're struggling to go out by yourself because you haven't necessarily had the opportunities, find there are clubs that you can find online. Facebook's a great place for that. You can go out with friends who maybe go out at the weekends. Pay for an instructor. Like if you hire an outdoor instructor, it won't break the bank, and you can either hire them one-on-one, or you could take a group of friends along and make it sort of more accessible. But that will, like, if you've got some like a professional who's got all this formal training and experience behind them that can then help teach you or take you out. So if you want to go rock climbing, that they can give you that experience, and they can teach you the ropes and get you out, and it's investment into your future. And then just keep building up your own personal experience, keep pushing yourself, keep going out there, no matter what the conditions. And then look at the qualification system. If that's something you want to do, is to go and lead, is to look at the British qualifications are, quite structured. Like you're summer mountain leader, there's rock climbing qualifications, mountaineering qualifications, and you can kind of work your way through those. And contact outdoor centres, contact other instructors that are already out, and see if you can get work experience. For expeditions, there's big youth expedition companies like World Challenge that often look for assistant leaders as well. So if you've got your mountain leader training, you can go and be an assistant leader for them, and that's a great way to get experience of leading expeditions. I just wouldn't advise. I know a lot of people do, but I wouldn't advise just going out and leading an expedition with no experience.
Oh, wow.
Because, there's only although these companies are fantastic and they've got great support networks in place, there's only a certain amount of stuff that, when I've got people out on the ground for me, there's only a certain amount of help that I can give them because I'm not physically there, to extract people. We can only, do stuff remotely. And if you don't have the experience and you're suddenly managing something that's gone very wrong, it's all on you.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of responsibility.
And do you think, like, I was fascinated by your views on like how mentally, what you've been through, the extremes, how it can really train you and train your brain to deal with everyday life situations. And do you think we're kind of getting too comfortable? And what would your advice to be to people? Because I know there's so many people, kind of, I have to be careful here, I'm not quoting any of my friends, that, yeah, I'll take this personally then, getting uncomfortable has made me realise there's so much more to learn about myself. And I think I read in your book about how you're fascinated with that and mindset, and how, you can really challenge yourself and grow.
Yeah.
Would you have any advice to anyone that would want to do that in the outdoor environment?
Yeah, I think it's firstly being kind to yourself around this, because, you know, if you study the behaviour of any animal, it's all like survival is about efficiency and conservation of energy. So, you know, we will take the easier option. It's ingrained in us, like every cell in our body is wanting to conserve energy. Because, like, you know, our ancestors would have faced really hard winters and, you know, being preyed upon. And, you know, you don't want to be burning excess energy if you're going to have to run away or fight something. So it's ingrained in our very makeup to conserve energy and take easier options. And we've created this incredible world around us where, you know, we've got like everything that we could possibly want laid out in front of us, so we can go and take it. And we've, you know, we're very fortunate in the UK to have healthcare on tap, and and, you know, for those of us, you know, that might be struggling, there's support out there. So it's very, very easy to, you know, kind of sit back and let life take its course. But like resilience is built through taking on challenges. And I'm very fortunate to be an ambassador for the Scout organisation. And I know you've been involved with them as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like the programs, like the Skills for Life program, is all about like getting young people out into community, into the outdoors, giving them lots of different experiences and encouraging them to take lots of different challenges and push themselves out of their comfort zone, because that's what helps build resilience. Mm-hmm. And that's something that like transfers into later life. So for us, in terms of like, you know, taking the next step of pushing yourselves in the outdoor environment, it's, you know, either hire that outdoor instructor or guide that can take you out. So, you know, if I'm taking people out with me, it's like they're pushing their comfort zone within my comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And I can keep you safe. But if you don't have that, then it's taking the steps slowly, because, you know, if you step too far out of your comfort zone, you're going into like the realms of misadventure, and that's when accidents happen, because you're functioning in fear, the stress response. So, you know, that fight, flight, freeze response, where actually logic and reasoning and the ability to problem solve and get yourself out of stuff diminishes rapidly. And you want to be able to stay calm. So like little forays out of your comfort zone. Yeah.
You say that, but then in your book, you got bit by, was it a cobra?
Oh, it was a mountain king cobra. Yeah.
And like I was listening to it and I'm thinking, and you talk about how you obviously have to compose yourself because you don't know if it's going to be, there's two types of snakes, right? Whether it was a really venomous one that potentially would take your life within hours. I'm like, how does someone keep their composure in that situation? Like, is that something you've learned over many years of experiences, or can it be taught?
Yeah, I know. I think it comes from building up experience. I think you can kind of explain what it is, and you can give people experiences that push them out of the comfort zone. But I think it comes through experience. And yeah, that was. I mean, it's a crazy story, really. Like, and it shows like how irresponsible we were at the time. It's like in the early days of like the film work. So I got into the film work because they needed like somebody who could stunt rig and rig the challenges. So I got brought on board with the TV work to rig stunts, and then they realised that I'd got the kind of survival background as well. And then it was cheaper to hire one person to do that. So like we, in the early days of the shows that we were working on, these, and they were quite, you know, we didn't realise how big it was all going to become, and like, you know, it was kind of the cusp of like adventure filming as we see it today. So like myself and like, there's a couple of other guys that were part of this core team that were doing all the animal wrangling as well, as a kind of the safety and the rigging and things. And like we were handling all sorts of snakes and things at the time, some of them like really crazy deadly. I remember like, we had 2 black mambas in my room at one point, and one of that we came back and there was like only one in the thing, and I'm like, where the heck is the other one? It's somewhere in here. And then there was this experience. We were out in New Mexico, and I was actually scouting for a location for I think it was like a Land Rover Defender launch or something, some PR event anyway, but it was quite remote. And we'd parked up vehicles, walked in. It was about a 2-hour walk in, and one of the guys picked up this snake, and it was a mountain king cobra, but he passed it to me, and I remember just thinking, wow, that's so cool, as it kind of dislocated its jaw and like clamped itself onto my hands. It was like, fuck, get it off. And then it was like they're going through that moment of, because it's this identical colours to a coral snake, which can be deadly and is venomous, but they're the reverse, so the other way around. And it's like, have we got it the right way? Of that moment, well, we're going to find out. But it's just like, right, got to keep calm, because it's like it goes through the system really quickly. So it's like lymphatic wrapping. So you wrap away from the bite side with like a bandage and things that kind of slows the venom down. But definitely a moment of like, I hope we've identified this right. But it was also a moment of like, we need to stop. Unless we're not qualified to be doing this, we need to bring in animal wranglers from now on.
So you've got like the extremities of like weather, animals, and then I guess like I'm quite intrigued by like the social aspects, because you've worked with celebrities, and then just general people that have been dumped on an island with their grills. Like, how interesting has that been for you career-wise, in terms of working with lots of different types of personalities? And I guess social intelligence, yours must be incredibly high, because you're saving people of all walks of life.
Well, it's fascinating. I just find people fascinating. This is where like the kind of interest in like the psychology of it all came from. Because it doesn't matter who you are. Like, nature doesn't discriminate, doesn't care. What you walk, where you're from, what your background is. Is going to perform in the way nature performs. And I think that was really, really important. Working with like some of the best known faces in the world, is like to remember that they're just people, and you can't put them on a pedestal, because I wouldn't be able to do my job and keep them safe. If I idolize them. I've got a huge amount of respect for these people, because they're at the top of their game, and I learn so much from talking to them. But in terms, I'm there to do a job, and I need to be able to stay on my game, and be able to interact with them and not be intimidated, because I have seen that happen. We've had a few very near misses because of that, and because of pressure put on by well-known people to get things moving, and corners are cut on the safety, or like the rigging hasn't been done quite properly, and it's only been because somebody's noticed at the last minute. And that's because if you're kind of quite new to the industry, and you've got somebody who's like, oh my goodness, you've got this massive person like here, and they're putting a lot of pressure on me, like I need to get my shit done and finish this so I can go back off. And it's just like, rather than being able to say no, just wait. That's like I've had to do that like with huge Bollywood stars, and all their people are like, oh my God, you can't talk to them that way. I'm like, well, he's going to fall out the helicopter unless he puts his harness on.
It doesn't matter who you are, like, you're still going to,
he's like, when you say, like, I don't want to wear a harness, I'm going to, like, stand on the side of the helicopter. I'm like, totally going to put that harness on, mate. But I did actually learn a lot about that, because I was actually, like, for them, and this is where, like, that kind of cultural sensitivity comes in as well. He'd got this amazing, beautiful, tailored outfit. And of course he doesn't want a harness wrinkling it. And it was just a very different, culturally for me, it was just like, actually, for moving forwards, I need to make sure that we've got harnesses that, work with their costume or their outfit as well, because, we also need them to feel comfortable and be able to present and do their job.
Yeah. It's fascinating. And would you have any words of wisdom for, any woman out there that's like, oh my God, I want to do that stuff?
Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. I know that sounds so easy to say that, because it's not as easy as that. But I think, like, so oftentimes It's very easy. And I think this is where we go back to what you're saying about the world becoming so easy. It's so easy to place blame elsewhere and not take responsibility. It's freaking hard being a woman sometimes. You know, we are up against a lot of stuff. Like, society ingrains a lot of messages into us. And, you know, and there still is, you know, the negativity at times. And, you know, you do feel a little bit welcome at times. But ultimately, the only person that's stopping you going out and doing it is you.
Yeah, it's yourself. Yeah. Amazing. Listen, your career is incredible. You embody everything that She Dares Wins means. So thanks for inviting me into your back garden for chat. What an incredible view.